got too damn high, I got stuck in the clouds. I'm on the wave. I'm on the wave. My vibration got too high, I got stuck in the clouds.
What's up, highly emotional friends and family? This is episode 6. Today I have a special guest. If you're looking for light, you're looking for love, you're searching for God, you're just trying to find a higher consciousness, you're just trying to follow the journey, then this podcast is for you. Today I have a special guest. His name is Shawn Regis. He is a health enthusiast, a U.S. Army veteran, a former corporate executive who has seamlessly transitioned into the role of an entrepreneur and certified integrative nutrition holistic health coach. Welcome to the podcast, Shawn.
Thank you. Well, that was a mouthful, but in short, basically, you could call me a holistic health coach.
Absolutely.
Because integrative nutrition, integrative just means it integrates, like I would say, ancient wisdom medicine. It integrates alternative medicine with some modern modalities. So that's all it is. So when we say holistic, we mean I'm not just trying to nourish your food. I'm not just like the food, but also what your mind, your body, and your spirit. So as a coach, the approach I take is everybody's multidimensional. So it's not just one thing that makes you. So that's what we mean by holistic. But I appreciate it, and thank you so much for having me.
No, it's an honor to have you here.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times with our culture, with us melanated people or black people or whatever you want to call it, a lot of us, when it comes to our health, we don't take it that serious. So I understand like how important it is to play a position as you, but how did you become this? How did you get into health and holistic healing?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. So I could be here for a long time answering that question, but I'll make it short. So I actually have always felt that calling towards. All my life, I've been a health enthusiast. I mean, as a kid, I was raised literally in a small island. Have you heard of St. Lucia?
Mm-mm. Okay. Oh, St. Lucia. Yeah.
Lucia. I have. It's a really small island in the Caribbean, and grew up in the mountains, man. I mean, like in the mountains, in a small community, connected to nature. The way we grew up, we ate 90% of what we ate, we grew it, right? Back then, it was no organic. It was because you were poor as shit, you grew your food.
Yeah.
Our water was literally spring water from the mountains. But long story short, coming to the US, I had a really interesting journey. But throughout it all, like I've always maintained my roots in terms of what I learned as a kid, in terms of holistic healing, how going back to nature, how community, how the foods we eat and the people we surround ourselves by nourishes us. I kept that with me. And then I was fortunate enough to later to live in China for a few years. And while there, it really opened up my eyes how in China, they have a 3,000-year-old, medicinal history. And when it comes to health and wellness, holistic health it starts from who you with, the food. Food is medicine in China. Everything they eat, not the Chinese food you buy, but in China. So long story short, I've been in corporate. I was in corporate for the last 12 years and then making good money, but still feeling unfulfilled. And I think through a series of synchronicities, when the opportunity presented itself, I found myself at a crossroads where I was like, I could either continue in corporate, making good money, which was great, but it was just not fulfilling. It was like
spiritually,
like just the work you were doing, right? And then, but I always had this aching in the back of my mind, hey, there is something else that I'm supposed to do. So when the chance came up, I realized, listen, if I don't do this right now, I'll never get a chance to do it again. So that's when I decided to leave corporate and to become a health coach where I could really help people. You see it, I see it, a lot of kids, a lot of my friends suffering, high stress, burnout, whatever it is they were going through in the corporate world. And everybody always used to come to me for advice. Hey, what should I eat? What should I do this? So eventually it was like, okay, this is something which I'm passionate about. And the industry, it's a growing industry. And I decided, hey, and we just jump into it. And that's just kind of how I got into it. It was just a combination of things that led me here to just deciding, yes, I'll follow my path, I'll follow my calling.
So, okay, so this is gonna sound crazy, but so one day I like went into this crazy deep transformative meditation, and I was meditating for probably about an hour.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I meditate, and I'm a skeptic when it comes to like talking to spirit and the voices in your head, but I would sit in a meditation and the higher consciousness of myself.
Yeah.
It said to me, hey, there's something I want to share with you. And I was like, okay, like, sure, let's do this. Like I said, I'm a skeptic. So a lot of times I think I'm making this up.
Yeah.
But then my higher consciousness said to me, it said, if you want to be healthy and you want to have a long lasting life, pay attention to the world around you. Pay attention to the things you eat. Pay attention to the trees. And the first thing it said, if you look at the trees, they look like your lungs. If you open an orange, it looks like your lungs. So then my spirit said, I was like, oh my gosh. So then my spirit said, why don't you pay attention to the things that you eat and start eating the things that are more fit for your body? So this also transitioned me into like researching and watching videos of Dr. Sebi.
Mm-hmm.
So when I stumbled across Dr. Sebi, it like empowered me and changed my perspective on food, where I would look at bags of chips and I would look at it as kind of like video game food, artificial food. Like I would look at it and be like, bro, this is like fake. It's kind of how money in a video game is fake. I look at the food, the artificial food, the man-made food as like fake video game food. But then not only that, I started doing something called a palate test. I do it upon myself. So when I became aware of my body, when I would eat something, I would start doing or testing myself based upon how I feel, based upon my mucus in my throat. And I started noticing things. So for example, if I eat chicken, my mucus would be thick. My body would feel dense and heavy. If I eat salad, I feel light. My mucus is light. If I eat cheese, my mucus is extremely thick. Not only that, is that I start getting headaches. So then I started getting into fasting. I would do like a 1-day fast, 48 hours, 5-day fast, and challenge myself. A lot of people, when it comes to fasting, they give up within that first hour. So then my question is, what advice do you have for people that are trying to get into that more healthy mentality? What is the first step? Is it being aware of your body, or is it fasting?
I think fasting would be a little bit, but it depends on what kind of fasting, right? So it depends. Like, did you do intermittent fasting, or did you do just a full fast?
So me, I went cold turkey. I said, I'm going to do 5 days and I'm going to see how my body feels with nothing in it. The first 3 days were the hardest. The last 2, I was like, oh man, I can live like this. So that's where I was. But a lot of people, they struggle with those first 2 days.
So did you drink water? Like, did you drink juice?
I drank water, just all water.
Okay. So for people, to answer your question, I think you could start with either. It depends on, again, there's not a one shoe size fits all, but I like your story because one thing you mentioned is your body, right? And I think fasting is a vehicle to help your body get better. So I would say your body is the best place to start. To your point, you felt it, right? And then you start experimenting. You were following your intuition because you were being guided spiritually, right? By what to do. A lot of times, it's just simply starting by listening to your body. And I think as a coach, what I teach people is how to reconnect with your body and listen to yourself. We have been taught to look outside, listen to doctors, listen to this person, that person. You know your body better than anyone else. You know how you feel. It's just a matter of, to your point, listen to those whispers. If that bag of chips, if that ice cream, if you eat, drinking milk, how you feel, it's all about how you feel. Now, as far as fasting is concerned, if you want to reset your immune system, I would recommend fasting. What you did was hardcore, like you went off the deep edge. But I would recommend intermittent fasting, which is where you eat for 8 hours and you take 16 hours of not eating. But make sure you don't eat anything at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, because you want to at least give your stomach a break. So I'd say one, start with your body. And if you want to do like a quick jump start, do a fasting to kind of reset your body and just cleanse everything out and detox yourself.
So then you were saying about being guided like by your spirit, right?
Yeah.
Before we was just talking about how I just read this book called The Surrender Experiment by I can't think of his name right now.
Oh, good.
But
Yeah.
basically just giving into your spirit.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about mental health, we talk about physical health, we talk about all these things with spirit. Like, how do you feel that spirituality plays into holistic health? Or do you feel that they go hand in hand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think spirituality is something that we as human beings have always had. As far back you go in our evolution, you will see we've always had spirituality. Have you ever heard of Blue Zone, Secret to Longevity?
I haven't.
So it's a Netflix documentary where this guy went across different countries in the world where people were living to over 100, but not just living to over 100, but living there healthily, being able to walk, being able to do stuff for themselves who were 100, 105, 110. And some of the communities, just to give you a few, was like Okinawa, was a few islands in the Mediterranean. Even there was only one community in here in the US as well. But what they found was that they found similarities in all those Blue Zone communities. And one of them was that one community, and the other one was spirituality. Whether that's praying to whatever spirituality you have, whether that's Christianity, Buddhism, or ancestral worship like our people used to do before Christianity. But they all had that element of spirituality. So I think, and spirituality is a way for you to really connect to your true self, because this is just a figment of who we are, the reality that we are. So it's a way for you to reconnect back with yourself, reconnect back with the universe, with the cosmos. And I think that's what it is. That's why I think spirituality is important. It's like a tree without roots. When you don't have spirituality, it's what keeps you grounded. It's what keeps you in the ground. So
that's crazy. Whenever you say spirituality, my mind is like, because I like with my spiritual journey, like becoming aware of my body, becoming aware of the higher consciousness. And I like a lot of times I'm scared to talk about this because a lot of people's beliefs are like stuck in a box about religion. But then like right now, what comes to my brain is the first thing is about grounding. I'm not sure if you're big on grounding, but a lot of times
very big on grounding.
It's gonna sound crazy, but like I want to say within the last few months, I've been doing walking barefoot and becoming grounding for like the past 5 years or whatever. But now I've gotten to the point where I go out and hug a tree and I can feel the life force from the tree. I can feel the vibration from the grass. Yeah. I can feel vibration just being outside. I can feel the earth just pretty much speaking to my spirit. Yeah. And so when it comes to like people's religious beliefs or even sometimes science, a lot of people don't believe in spirituality. A lot of people don't believe into, astral projection, third eye meditation. A lot of people think these things are like fake, kind of like a superhero. Yeah. And so it's like, how do these things play, into real life, or I would say real life experience? Because I've experienced it myself. And like we've had conversations before about, third eye and meditation, all these different things. But like, what is your experience with them yourself?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because in my last company that I worked in was a tech company and I was a sales director there. And my boss was the VP of the company at the time. One of the things that we spoke about a lot was flow. Have you heard of flow? So flow is sort of like a mental state where you are tapped into an energy where it's like, have you ever started working on a project on a piece of music and then you're in a state where time just seems to stop and you look at the clock and you're like, wait a minute, wow, I've been there for 6 hours. And you were just at peak.
All the time.
That's when you tapped into your spiritual energy. People don't know it. They think it's something grandiose. That's when you tapped into flow. That's when you connected to your gift, to yourself. So that's what it means. That's how spirituality helps. As an entrepreneur, whenever I'm working on a project where I'm creating, and if what I'm doing is aligned, if what you're doing is aligned with your purpose, and it's also to serve others, that's how you tap into flow and tap into spirituality. So I think spirituality plays a role, to answer your question, in everything that we do, when we connect to our true selves and we connect with our authentic selves, and we're doing something that aligns with our purpose, whatever that is.
Yeah, because I remember we was talking when we was at the Buddhist temple, we were talking about how a lot of people don't think that astral projection is real. And you have brought up the idea that not only has it been proven that it's real, but then on the flip side, I was like, it's hard for me to talk to people about energy. I can feel energy. When I walk in the room, I can feel if I'm opening up. I can feel if someone's toxic. And a lot of times I won't even acknowledge that person because I know it will compromise my energy.
It's like an intuition, right?
Exactly.
You feel a gut's feeling.
Exactly. And so you had brought up like, okay, these are the things that have proven these things exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, I think I'm not an expert in none of this stuff. Like yourself, the community that I'm in, of health coaches, of healers, I know people who have expressed that either they've done it or that they have experienced it before. I've read up a lot on it, but I personally have never experienced it. But in the realm of energy and in the realm of that field, it's, like I said, I have credible people who have experienced it. So whether they've been able to actively do it themselves, some people can. I mean, there have been the world is too big. There's a lot of things that are unexplained that we can't explain. But it goes back to something you said. Earlier you mentioned going into the trees, connecting with the forest, connecting with the vibration. Everything you said, there is science to back it. Like going into the environment, your brain resonates on the same frequency as the earth. So that's why when you're in nature, you're feeling connected to nature. When you're hugging that tree, you're literally grounding and earthing. There is so much benefits to grounding and earthing, walking barefooted, in terms of you getting microbes from that tree, from the ground, which live on us. We're like a freaking planet for microbes. You getting negative ions from the earth, from the tree, which helps your body to release happy hormones, which helps you to feel better. So there's a lot of science behind it now. And as a coach, I teach about grounding and earthing to my clients.
What do you like? So you speaking about microbes, like, can you go more into depth about that?
Yeah,
I don't know too much about it. And I want to learn.
Absolutely. So, again, that's something it's a new and growing field, but let me ask you a question. If I were to ask you, do you think you're 100% human? You would say that's a stupid question. Yes, I'm 100% human, right?
In some sense.
In some sense, right? Okay. You are actually maybe only 49% human.
Then what is the rest of you?
The other 51% of you have around 138 plus trillion microbes living on you, in you, your nose, your air, your mouth, your skin. But 95% of these microbes are living in your gut. And these microbes do everything from help you to digest your food, release hormones, create new DNA. So a whole lot of stuff. The microbes are part of your immune system. So we are like a walk-in ecosystem with microbes. When I say microbes, I mean bacteria, virus, yeast. Those are very tiny. So we have bacteria and yeast in us. We need them to survive. Without them, we would be dead, would not survive. So
so I've heard this saying, like a lot of people. Have you ever heard the saying as above, so below? It's basically anything that's happening above is also happening on the physical plane.
Yeah.
But when you're saying all these things, it makes me think about how people say, like, pretty much you are a planet or you are a galaxy, and within you're a galaxy.
You are.
But it's so hard to bring this to people because, like, people only see themselves as just a physical being. And one thing I learned about myself is that I'm more than that. A lot of times I would get emotionally attached to conversations or situations. And us talking to Tientu at the temple, he always talks about going beyond duality and going beyond these things and pretty much shaking that off. But like you saying this, like all these different things, like how do we explain that to the world? How do we make people understand, like, you are a galaxy? Like one of the things that I always say is like, and a lot of people frown upon this term, is like, I'll say, you are God. I am God. Yeah. Like I've stripped that cultural box that they put me in, whether it's my religious beliefs, whether, like, if I tell people, I don't believe in like a religion, I don't claim a religion, people instantly be like, you're atheist. I'm like, no, you just put me in another box. So it's like where I'm going with this is like, how do you convince or talk to people who may be closed-minded that don't understand that they're more than just this flesh, they're more than just their skin color, they're more than their sex or their identity. How are they? How do we?
That's a very tough one. I mean, like, because first of all, the one thing I know as a health coach is that I'm not for everyone.
Absolutely.
This conversation is not for everyone.
Yeah.
The people who it's for, it's going to resonate with them because they're going to feel it. So a lot of people, you talk like this and they'll think he's crazy and they'll dismiss you. And you can't have this conversation with everyone.
Do you struggle with that yourself when you tell people about holistic healing and stuff?
Well, I try to, the thing with me, because I work with corporate clients, I work with, people who are achievers, performers, entrepreneurs. I have to meet people where they are. So me and you, we could go in deep. We could talk about spiritual stuff. We could talk about the woo-woo stuff, the spiritual, the reincarnation. We can talk about that because we understand it. But people who don't understand it, I will keep it I don't go that deep with them. I give them I meet them where they are. So I'm not going to talk about spiritualism so much so, but I'll say, hey, meditation helps you to calm down and to feel connected and to feel really stressed. But really, meditation is also about connecting to yourself spiritually. So I kind of meet them where they are.
When was your first time that you meditated?
I've been meditating for maybe 12 years now, over 12 years.
So the difference between now and 12 years, what is the significant difference that you realize? Like for me, when I first started, I was like, am I meditating? Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I feel like a lot of people, when they first start meditating, they're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know if this makes sense. So a lot of people, like when it comes to meditation, they feel like they're doing it wrong. But where I'm at now, it doesn't take me too long to get into that trance. I could sit there for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and I'm already locked in. Like I'm already. And like for me, the meditative state puts me in the galaxy, in the stars. I see the little specks of light and I'm out there with the planets floating along. Right. Okay. So like, what would you say is the significant difference from then to now?
To be honest, for me, it's been tough.
Okay.
It's been really tough. Some days I am in the galaxies, but most days I'm just hovering, but regardless of where I end up, I still get the benefits of it. But with meditation, what we do is type of meditation we do is called mindful meditation. It's not for everyone. You gotta find, because there is also guided meditation where you're listening to someone's voice. What we do, most people find it difficult. And again, I think you should probably tell a story about how we met, just because you keep referencing TN2 on the temple of meditation. So, but what we do is mindful meditation where we just sit still and we shut the voices in our head, and then we enter a state of no mind, where there is no mind, but there is still an intelligence above your mind. And that allows you to tap into the cosmos and you see those colors and those stars. But again, like I said, it's really finding out what works for you. Some people might meditate one day and they get it. Some people, it takes 10 years and they never get to that level. So it all depends on where you are and what kind of meditation you're doing as well.
So I'm just thinking about other different things that we've had conversation about. By the way, so the way that we met is, for me, one day for my birthday just passed, and I told myself, okay, this year I want to find the higher version of me. I mean, I've been chasing this for a long time, but I was like, okay, now I want to take it to another step. So for me, I was like, all right, I'm going to learn how to meditate from a monk. So one day I was at the park reading a book and I stopped what I was doing and I was like, okay, I'm going to call around and find a temple. It was the weirdest situation for me because I didn't know the best approach. I was like, maybe I got to meet somebody. Maybe I got to do something to meet with a Buddhist monk. And so I called around and finally I got in touch with someone and they were like, oh, I'll give the monk your number. He messaged me. And so I went. So my first time going, I was nervous, to be honest, because a lot of people, when it comes to like religious beliefs or anything along those lines, spirituality, people look at me and they instantly think that I have no connection to God, or I may not believe in God, or I'm a bad person or a gang member, or all these things. But when I instantly walk in the room, it was pretty much all love and accepting. And then when I met you, I felt a connection soon as we started talking. I was like, man, this guy seems open. He like the things that he's saying. And when we sit with TN2 and we meditate, it doesn't feel like he's telling us what we have to do. It feels like a group of people who are equally spiritual, and all of us have information to share. So that gravitated me towards continuing to meditate. And I will say this to anybody who's listening to this podcast, anybody who's watching this, I would say just give it a try. When it comes to like spirituality, I would just say try things, and whatever works for you works for you. And to be honest, like meditating with the monk is what I like to say, has helped me and strengthened, but also made me feel more secure about bringing this message to you guys and saying, hey, meditation has helped me with my depression. Meditation has helped me with my higher consciousness, my spiritually awareness. Meditation has helped me with all those things, but not only that, with healthy habits of eating, sleeping, all these different things. But a lot of times, so me and you, like we sit and talk. But I remember you were telling me something that, you know, if you don't feel comfortable with it, it's okay. But you were telling me about parenting your children, teaching them, you know, about non-GMO stuff, teaching them about the healthy food. So are you married?
Yeah.
So as a married man, as a father, like, how do you teach this to your children so that they can be influenced by these healthy habits, this holistic healing? Because, you know, it's hard. We're surrounded by this world. We're indoctrinated. So how do you incorporate that to them?
Yeah, I mean, first thing you said, I think you're right. It's really hard. They've been indoctrinated everywhere outside the school, and sometimes you feel like you're fighting a losing battle. But I think to answer your question, how do you teach them? I would say first it starts at home, right? It starts with you being the example, number one, and number two is you sit them down. I mean, literally, like you tell them, hey, don't eat those foods, and here is why, and here is what it does to you. And then like my kids now that, you know, they're 6 and 7, and they know how to read ingredients, and they know, hey, I tell them what sugar does, how it's bad for you, and what having too much sugar does. And so now they could go into a store, I walk in and I say, hey, do you want a candy bar? Look at it, what's the ingredients? And I teach them about the difference between whole foods, between real food and artificial food, to know what you were saying earlier. But you don't want to be too strict with your kids, because what's going to happen is as they grow up, they're going to just rebel against everything. And, I couldn't have sugar as a kid, now I'm going to binge eat sugar, and I'm going to, you know. So you want to give them a little bit of leeway, but also educate them at the same time. And you got to be, and it's tough, but, you know, it's going to stick. Over time, they will start telling you stuff. Like my daughter, one time she came home with a candy, and I'm like, why you got this candy? She's like, but daddy, it's organic and it's real fruit. And I'm like, I shut up. And she's 6 years old. I couldn't say anything after that.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful because a lot of people don't realize that you can learn from your children. Yeah. Like I learned a lot of things from my children. One of the things is patience, right? Like your kids are so free when it comes to life. They're so happy about life. Like for them, my son, he with his emotion, he's just happy when he wakes up. He's happy to do this. And I feel that a lot of us, as time goes on, because we're so stressed about money problems, we're so stressed about love, we're so stressed about life itself, that we lose, you know, that touch of our kids. And it's so beautiful when you can sit, watch your kids, and learn how to be happy about simple things. So when it comes to like birthdays and stuff like that, we splurge on our kids. They got playroom, toys, PlayStation, all this stuff. But one thing, and a lot of people say this, one thing about my kids, before they even go play with the PlayStation, they play with the box, right? They play with the box and stuff. My daughter, she'll sit in the box, they'll build a house out of it, all these different things. And learning how to be happy about the simple things of life is what I learned from them. I was sitting and watching, I'm like, that's crazy. Y'all are so happy about this box. Yeah. But I'm so, like, I complicate my life by comparing my success to the world. Yeah. So it's like once again, like learning from your children is so beautiful. Yeah, but it is. I want to go back to something you were saying. You were saying that awareness of all these ingredients. So I've heard about red dye and yellow dye. I don't know if like you you know about that stuff. I feel like maybe you do, but I don't. Is there?
Yeah.
Could you tell me more about that stuff so that I could become aware of this?
Yeah. So I think, man, there's so much. But long story short, they use artificial colors into color foods like Skittles. I think Mars used to have it, but certain companies, they use artificial food coloring to put in the food, like Fruit Loops. Maybe in the past they used to, I'm not sure if they still do. But long story short, these dyes have been linked to ADHD, have been linked to being like possibly endocrine disruptors, which means as your kid growing up and your brain is developing, it messes with the hormones. And it's been linked to even cancer in some cases by United Nations. So in countries, for example, some of the foods we have here, in the UK, they ban or they force them to remove certain ingredients which have been shown to be harmful, but we still keep it here in America. Foods like even Skittles has been shown to cause, like, has certain ingredients in them that have been linked to cancer. So again, a good person to follow on Instagram is called Food Babe, and you could go there. She will show you all the foods, all the ingredients, what they are, and I'll give you the link. You could follow her, and she'll show you the harmful foods and the good and some good options that you could have, and she shows you all those ingredients. But long story short, those dyes have been linked to ADHD and other harmful effects in kids that you should stay away from anything with dyes in it, like cotton candy, like the shaved ice with the coloring, bright blue, bright red. That's not natural. It doesn't happen in nature.
That's wow. That's crazy.
So those dyes, like all those, most of the fruit juices, where you see the fruit juices are the same color, stay away from those. They have dye in them. That's not natural.
Yes, that's crazy.
Yeah.
This conversation has this conversation has been great. It's empowering. Before we end, first thing I'm gonna say is, for someone trying to start this health journey, what advice do you have for them? And then two, a lot of times I share books with people, but if you can give maybe your top 2 books that you recommend, and just.
Whoa. Okay. I wish I can prepare for that second question. I think a good place to start is a good starting point. Oh my God. I'll give a few tips, right?
Absolutely.
Tip number 1 is stay away from ultra processed foods. That's the number 1 killer. You do that, you solve 70% of the health problems.
What are ultra processed foods?
Ultra processed foods are foods that have more than one ingredient in them. Basically, foods that you go into a supermarket, you buy it in a box or you buy it in a package in the freezer or something like that, and it has multiple ingredients. It's processed to get to that point. For example, pasta is processed, right? For example, you go and buy candy or sweets, that's processed, right? It has sugars that your body absorbs instantly, and it gives you glucose high, and those leads to everything from high blood pressure to diabetes to whatever. So stay from ultra processed foods, eat whole foods, real foods, the produce section. If it grows on a tree, it's a whole food, right? If it's in a box, it's a processed food. That's a general rule of thumb, right? So processed foods have been linked to most of the health issues we have in now, is by processed foods. And then number 2, it's bioindividuality, meaning we're all different. What works for me don't work for you. Lots of people are arguing and fighting about, oh, you should be a vegan, you should be a pescatarian, you should be. It's what you're. Me personally, I was a vegetarian, I was a vegan, I'm a pescatarian, right? But I have people in my family, their body type, they need to eat meat, right? For me, I cannot eat meat because it really messes with me. So you have to find out what works best for your body type. So that's the 2 things I would say. It's 1, processed foods, and 2, do what works best for your body. And your body will tell you, when it's not feeling right. To your point, you'll get those whispers, you will hear it. You'll get those cues. So.
And then the book?
Oh, the book.
It could be any book. It could
be
the latest book.
There's a book called The China Study. It was written a long time ago by Dr. T. Campbell. That one kind of leans more towards vegetarianism, but it tells you a little bit about it. And with regards to the processed foods, how that's killing us, I wouldn't really say there is a book, but I would say there is, follow this lady, this podcast. I'm sorry, this Instagram, Food Babe. I'll give it to you, and she'll make your life so much easier, because you go in there and you see all the foods and you will see what's in it and why is it bad. And a lot of the stuff that we eat in supermarkets, I would say 95% of what's on the shelf in the US today is it's poison. It's killing our foods, it's killing their minds, it's killing their bodies, it's killing their spirit. It's a jungle out there, man, and our kids, to your point, are being indoctrinated into it. Every holiday is about candy nowadays. So it's just that's what I would say.
That's crazy. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And lastly, where can people find you? Just in case they're trying to follow your practice or anything.
Absolutely. So again, I'm just getting in on social media. Like I said, this is me following my passion. So my website is, I'll leave it for you, it's www.vital. My company is called Vital Triad. Vital meaning essential to life, Triad meaning 3. My philosophy is based on 3 pillars, which is nature, reconnecting to nature, community, and mindfulness, connecting to yourself and spirituality. So that's what the Vital Triad means. And then I do one-on-one coaching, private coaching, and I'm also running retreats. I'm doing a retreat this November in Costa Rica. You fly down and we fly you to the mountains, no technology for a week, plant-based foods in luxury, out in nature, spas, massages, meditation, workshop. So that's kind of what I do. So you could go to my website and you should see everything there.
All right. Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful conversation. If you like this conversation, you like this podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at The Highly Emotional Podcast. I'm your host, Tuesday Night Swim, and take care. Big swim.
I'm on the way. I'm on the way. My vibration got too damn high. I got stuck in the clouds.